My guest today is Chris Lunney, a decorated military leader turned real estate developer and managing partner at TLA Developments. After nearly 3 decades in Canada's armed forces, serving as a major and overseeing everything from Afghanistan withdrawals to pandemic crisis logistics, Chris now leads multifamily development projects across Alberta and British Columbia. But what I'm most excited to unpack today isn't just his real estate playbook, it's his mindset and how he navigates complexity and what it takes to build something that lasts. Chris, welcome to the journey.
Leo, thanks very much for having me on. This is exciting. Really excited to be here.
So, Chris, why don't you start us off with a quick intro about yourself so the audience can get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. Before I start, so Leo, my whole intention today is to add value to both you and your viewership, and I'm hoping to achieve that in spades in a way that a lot of people don't typically look at real estate, uh, because we're going to bring it from a mindset of how would a military guy look at real estate, how we break it down, how we do our research so we could achieve our goals for not only ourselves, for our investors, and most importantly for the communities and those individuals that are going to live in our housing down the road.
Love it.
So a little quick introduction to myself. Chris Lunney, 25 plus years in the Canadian Armed Forces, been around the world a number of times. So I've had, I jokingly say this, I've had about a dozen days that I wish I could bring back. And the rest have been just amazing stories with great, great people, both Canadians and other allied forces around the world. I served quite extensively with U.S. forces, both domestically across North America and around the world. So in those adverse times and all the training that we put together, you gain some resiliency. But like all things, when you do hard training, just like anything in life, you make mistakes, and the next iteration is better and better and better, polishing the diamond, if you will. Uh, but what comes of that is confidence and comfort and an ability to move very, very quickly when those same scenarios come up later. Uh, so in my military career, I've had an opportunity to have great people around me, great people I work for that have worked for me, and we built great, great teams. So what ultimately we bring to the table is that resiliency, that focus, and that a slightly different way of dealing with stakeholders and adversity along the way. Because the one thing I will say about property management, or sorry, property development is there was a few times I thought to myself, it'd be less stressful if I was back in Afghanistan getting shot at than if I was doing property development because man, oh man, the stress on this, the crush is brutal today. Those come and go, but you can see again why we spend so much time in the research to mitigate that risk, to mitigate that frustration and stress. So that's who I am. And I have two great partners that I work with.
Absolutely. So you bring up an interesting point about your mindset and how seemingly everything is connected because when you look at successful people, what they have in common is their mindset. Their vehicle and their execution is different, right? There's some people that are ball players, other people that are business people, there's military people as well. So that mindset component is really important. And you mentioned resilience. Now, how how do you bring resilience to what you do? And how did you transition that, more importantly, from your military side? Because it's one thing to remain calm while you're being shot at, but it's another talking to municipalities or what have you, right? What in your day to day right now.
True. So to start with, we assume our stakeholders and our municipalities aren't trying to shoot at us. They just may not agree with us. So that's a much more friendly scenario to be in. Joking aside, um, great teams. That's really what it boils down to. Uh, I've always been of a mindset: you train a great team, and in the adversity, when the leader goes down, the rest can pull forward and do the work. It gives them confidence and comfort to carry on in those times. That resiliency comes with as well the ability to fail. And as I jokingly said, as long as we don't go to business because you've made $1.5 million error, then we'll be fine. But resiliency comes with just knowledge, experience, and a mindset that what I'm doing, my vision, I have a 10-year vision to create 5,000 plus homes across North America. And I know that that will be impactful for everyone but me, because again, we're building communities, we're providing housing, we're providing livelihoods for all our trades, and building great communities as a direct consequence. If we can give some family 50 years of joy because we've built a house or a community for them, that's what's going to make me sleep at night. And the fact that we'll do quite well financially because of that, that's a bonus. But the vision is all encompassing. But resiliency starts with a great vision, because in those hard times, you have to know that bedrock that's gonna, that anchors you to keep moving forward.
Hmm. So how are you as a leader in your current business, and what sort of principles from the military side have you brought over to business? What has worked and what hasn't worked as well from these two different kinds of styles of leadership?
The one is very, very easily to understand, and that's simply integrity. Uh, you have to approach almost everything with that function of integrity, because in the good times, you don't need integrity because everyone's, the quote unquote fat, dumb, and happy. But it's the integrity, those strong relationships built before an adversity or before a difficult time hits, that allows uh, that relationship to hold, so you can move through those difficult times. The other one is, I would just say, just no bullshit, right? That's the politically incorrect way to say that, but exactly what everyone that's listening knows exactly what I mean, right? We don't have time to deal with individuals or groups that don't have share the same value sets that we do. So we spend a lot of time up front in that research, understanding who that group is, that individual, that organization. And we spend some time to figure out, is this someone I would sit down and have a beer with? Because if the answer is yes, that's the first step. Know, like, and trust, right? I get to know you, I get to like you. And then that last piece is, show me what you've done. Show me what you did when adversity hit. And then we'll really understand if you're the group or the individual that we want to partner with.
I like that. So, from what I'm hearing, Chris, there's a lot of alignment in terms of making sure you're on the same, you're under the same vision, and also you have similar ways of going about things, right? I mean, it's sort of cutting through the fluff. Like, okay, can I actually trust you as a teammate, or are you just there sort of to be a corporate person? Because we see that a lot, is that there's people that they have their corporate side, they have their personal side, but you don't really get along with them. And being that leader who sort of cuts through the fluff, I think that's key. And from the military side to the real estate side as well. So, um, with that being said, what has been maybe for you transitioning to real estate? Tell us more about, what sparked that transition, what was surprising about that, and what went into that sort of decision process.
Well, that's actually, Leo, that's a really easy story. So my father, when I was growing up in Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatchewan, in Canada, he built every house we ever lived in, and he was that older school mindset of, I'm going to dig the hole, and then I'm going to set up the forms, and I'm going to bring somebody else to pour the cement. He put in almost every nail that we ever on every house that we ever lived in, and The last house he built, I was 7 years old, and my mother bought me a hammer, and I promptly came on the job site and smashed a whole bunch of things. And he said, "Get that kid off here." Joking aside, he showed me what that great love of building things that last can look like. And I always say that in the military, we build great teams. We don't build great things because our job is to kind of push comes to shove, smash things up, destroy things, and make things a little bit worse than when we first started. So when I had the opportunity to get into property development, I was like, this is something that really, really ticks a box for me and gets me excited because I'm building something that when I'm 80 years old, I'll be standing in front of a building and talking to my grandkids, pointing up at that, saying, "Grandpa built that." And they'll look at me and say, "Grandpa, that's great. Now let's go get some ice cream." And I'll have a little tear come down my eye and go, "But I built it. Let's go get some ice cream." But that's the thing that I really look forward to, creating, building. I just, again, to my point earlier, building great communities, providing housing for families that there's no difference between the value set I had when I was in uniform to now that I'm just wearing a different uniform with TLA Developments. So it's exciting. And yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying I had a great example and I just want to emulate it.
That's great. That's great. I think truly very when people have pivots in life, they don't change themselves. They sort of just change the vehicle that they're in, right? It's almost like you're getting a new car. It's still the same person driving it. So, the values that drive you, they stay the same. So, sounds to me you're an empathetic leader that you want to work with people you like and then also deliver a positive impact to the community and create something that lasts longer than you do.
Perfectly said.
So when you're, let's talk about the real estate side. How do you build an excellent team? So right now you have, what was it, like around 20 people on your team? Is that right?
We're just over 10. Sorry about that. Yeah,
10.
we're just over 10. We do have a number of temporaries that do at peak time take it to that 20 level, but full-time staff, we have just over 10.
Got you. So
Uh,
how do you build that culture with them? Like what sort of systems do you have in place to sort of cut through the BS, as you say, like and build that team dynamic that you sort of are, brothers and sisters in arms, right?
100%. So the three partners, myself and my two other partners, are both, all three of us are ex-military. We have a few other veterans on the team. So just we're almost sort of 50% of our permanent staff, full-time staff, are ex-military. And we just have a different way of doing business. So to a certain degree, we're pulling the rest of the team along. But simple things like every Monday we have a team coordination meeting where everybody sits around the table and we say, this is what my week looks like. This is how I'm supporting my current task list. This is how I'm supporting you, and you in all your things that you're doing. And we go around the table like that. The ownership has a chance to kind of inject what the key priorities are and if anything has changed. And then on Thursday, we have a comprehensive review of all our projects and go down. Some are, hey, nothing's changed since last week. We're still letting the concrete dry. And others are, the cabinets and the painting just went on floor 3. We're starting to go to this level on floor 2, this on floor 1. We have that full gambit so everybody stays what we call the all-informed net. And then just really, like, for example, my first 15 minutes is every morning is grab a coffee and walking around just chatting with people saying, hey, how's your day looking? What can I do to help? How am I adding value to what you're doing? And so just, if nothing else, checking in on our people. So again, that's been beaten into us from day one as leaders. So it's really easy to emulate here and so I won't say we have an open door policy because that's always a difficult thing to say, but most times no one ever gets to my door because I've already been to their door at least once to ask them, what can I do to help? And what do you need from me to move your objectives along?
Hmm. Well said. I think a lot of people they mistake management as micromanagement. So, to some people, they're like, why are you micromanaging me? Like talking to me all this time, versus in reality, a good manager should know what's going on. You should have systems to track the progress. You should have check-ins. And it's not anything big. It's just even as little as just saying hi, good morning, anything is better than nothing. So I think on the development side, so going into that, it's obviously it's not as systematic and as regimented as the military or even your team, right? You can have great control over your team here at TLA, but the municipalities, getting them through that. How do you manage the sort of unpredictability and the long time frames with that?
That's a great question, and I'm gonna give you some great context here. So, um, we spend a lot of time understanding our markets before we even think about purchasing land. And again, I'm not going to say anything disparaging, but I'll just use an example. A lot of developers, and I want to just start, I'm talking about property development, taking something from nothing to something that is, a vision or a concept, straight through to handing keys over to an individual or a family. So we take a lot of time upfront researching where we're going to buy land because those markets not only meet the market analysis of the demographics are there, the economic drivers are there, the growth is there, the average income is there. So those are market analysis that everybody understands and knows about. But then we take that and we go, that's the first kind of, okay, does it make sense for us to even consider this market? Okay, great. Then we look at the municipalities themselves, and we spend a lot of time really understanding from a military perspective the human intelligence of that municipality because they're not all the same. And I'm going to use Victoria, BC as a quick example. So Victoria, BC is kind of around just across the way on Vancouver Island from Seattle or Vancouver. And there are 13 municipalities in that capital region district. And not all 13 are the same. There are some municipalities that if we were to get a deal offer for a land assembly come across our desk, we would look at it and go, okay, what's the municipality? It's municipality X. Okay, thank you very much. We're not interested. And people are like, oh my God, that is an amazing deal. The land assembly, etc. And I go, it is. It's an amazing situation. However, it's in the wrong spot. Because if it was in one municipality over, I would be on that like a big kid on a Smartie because it's such a great deal. But we know that it will take a huge amount of time and effort, and we don't have certainty that we'll actually achieve that concept. And the opportunity cost of money is so important. So I'm going to start with this example that everybody can understand, and it just drives it home. If you had 3 pieces of land that looked identical in every way, shape, or form, the land size, the lot assembly, the zoning, the amenities, and all the deep services that were around it were identical, and you have it in municipality A, B, and C. The first municipality, you could get that development permit, building permit done in 1 year. The second piece of land was in a municipality, it would be 3+ years. And the last one would be 5+ years. Which one would you take? Well, it's obvious. You would take the first one. That's the difference that we do. And we spend so much time finding that municipality that will only take 1 year to do it. Because it's so easy to get really tempted by the girl in the red dress. And they look, you find a piece of land that looks amazing. And you go, oh, I'm buying it. I'm buying it. And then you find out later that it's going to take you years upon years to get it actually through to a point where you can break ground. Wouldn't it have been better if you knew that right at the beginning? That's the case. And there's so much in way of opportunity costs of time, money, carrying costs, resources expended, frustration, stomach acid. I know of, there's a gentleman I know who was really quite an advanced developer that told me one time he was still trying to get a piece of property zoned, not even to a building permit, 12 years after he bought it. And I said, interesting. Wouldn't it have been nice to know that you would be in this spot 12 years ago before you bought it? And he goes, yes, it would have been, because I never would have bought it. And I said, exactly. That's the difference. Because, I think I used this example when we first chatted. If the Titanic could have avoided the iceberg field and just sailed around it, wouldn't that have been a better plan? Yeah, it would have. So we're looking for the iceberg fields before we actually get into it. Because once you're in it, you're in it.
It's like you have to pick your battles, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So the follow-up to that actually, is there a trade-off between the speed of something getting approved versus the potential for profit? Because I would imagine if a municipality is really good and quick with their approvals, then maybe a lot of people would go there, right? Is there a trade-off? Is there a balance, or what do you look for?
So some people that operate in municipalities that are very, very efficient, did they know that before they went in and bought the land, or did they do the work to figure it out before? And that's the key difference. Where we spend a little bit of time, effort, and a little bit of money buying a coffee, sitting down and having conversations, that's the difference that we spend time up in front. So would I rather spend 30 days finding out all the ins and outs of a municipality to save 4 years down the line? Or would I rather just spend 3 days doing due diligence, buy that piece of land, and then spend that next 4 years? That's the context we would put in. And we have a very, very clear way of doing it, and it's not hard. It's not like if I was to say this out loud, people would be looking at me going, yeah, that's exactly how I should be doing it. In fact, I had last month a developer of 30 years, maybe $1 billion in construction over his career and professional career, owner of a business. And I kind of sat down and in 10 minutes or less told him how we choose land. He goes, I don't think I've ever had somebody explain it to me that simply, that clearly, because I've been fighting this, I've been trying to, the equivalent of driving round pegs into square holes for years. I wish I'd learned that right at the beginning, because it would have made my life that much easier. And I would have had $2 billion constructed by this point in my career. Anyway.
So what's the sort of core pillars, or what's that framework for you?
Oh, that's a great question, Leo. So as I mentioned earlier, so do your market analysis. And that's the simple demographics. You could do that at a coffee shop over a computer, looking at the municipal economic development website page in any state, city, province here in Canada, and just really kind of saying, is this something that has some economic legs and some longevity over that 3 to 5 year period? If the answer is yes, perfect. If the answer is no, what's the next one on your list to look at? So that's the first piece of homework. The second piece of homework really is, now you want to look at what that municipal vision is for the next 30 years. So in Canada, they're called official community plans or municipal development plans. In the US, I don't know what that would be called, but it's kind of the vision for the next 25, 30 years. It tells you everything that they want and all the areas in which you could potentially work your magic and put your property development projects down. So again, they're giving you the roadmap. 95% of the people don't look at this plan, and they just went, they want me to build, I'm going to go build, get out of my way, approve me to be building. And you just go, okay, this is kind of that water down a hill. And you go, if I've read the plan and I understand it, and trust me, you're going to have to potentially read that 3 or 4 times, because you may fall asleep, because some of them are, if you're an insomniac, maybe grab a few and start reading them and you'll have wonderful sleeps. But you'll get that clear vision for what they want, so you don't have to, how many times have we're trying to, we always in the military say, reinforce success, don't reinforce failure. So if you run into a brick wall, you don't take 4 steps back and say, I just got to run at it harder now. That's what a lot of developers do. I just keep smashing until I get through. That's not the way to do it. If you could walk 2 feet to the right and say, okay, well, you got a path right through the wall. I go, good, because my head, I'm not wearing a helmet. I'm just going to go through. So again, how can I look at the municipality, what their vision is, and then meet it? That's simple research. Again, that's all online. And then once we get through that, this is where the real kind of time and coffee is spent. And in smaller communities, we'll say about 150 to 200,000 people or less, you can engage with the decision makers. And that's the real key bit. So we would go to the mayor and council and say, hi, my name's Chris Lunney. I work for TLA Developments. This is the product we have, which is multifamily medium density. We've looked at your zoning map and we think we can put it in these 4 locations. What do you think? And then we shut up and just listen. And that's the hardest thing, just to listen. And they'll tell you clearly, the first 2 locations, love those spots. This one over here, this third one, maybe not. We have some changing priorities in there that your product may not work. And then this 4th one, maybe you want to talk to planning, or there could be some other community associations that may have some friction. So potentially a NIMBY situation. Perfect. So there's a couple things that they'll tell you. First off, if they like you or not. Do I like developers or do I not like developers? Because if you go through that, they kind of like poo-poo you, or they don't really give you the time of day. They're not going to tell you yes or no, but they will tell you a hard no. They just can't say yes. But if they haven't said no, that means effectively, yeah, we're okay with it. And you can tell just by this interaction how if you like me, if you don't like me. So there's that. The second piece, once you go through all those decision makers, because ultimately you're going to go in front of council and you're going to have to present this and they're going to have to say yes. So you'll find out if there are blocks, if there's a mayor and 6 councillors, 3 to 4, these ones don't like these ones. And so you just have to be careful because you don't know which side you're going to be on. But if, let's just say, Leo, 5 of the 7 councillors say, yeah, you know what? We really like your stuff and we actually think it would work really well in those locations. Perfect. Because they've given you what you really want, which is buy-in. They've told you as a developer where they want your product. So if I bring them ultimately a project that's exactly where they want it, exactly the size that they want, it's very hard to say no. And I've got a great example at the very end that will summarize this perfectly. But once we get through that, we've decided, yeah, you know what? The decision makers really like our product. They like us, and they've confirmed they want it in these locations. Now we go to the staff. And we spend some time with them, and these are $1 million conversations at this point because you'll put that same, hi, my name is, this is what we do. This is what the product we have. We've looked at the map. We've got the decision makers to say, this is where they want it. What do you think? And we shut up. And so now you get the understanding of how the staff has their capabilities and their capacities, because ultimately they're the long pole in the tent that'll take you through that application process. You're going to understand if they like your product, and they'll confirm those 4 same locations, those first 2, yeah, not a problem at all. Or you may want to think about, and the 3rd location, that's 100-year-old infrastructure. You're going to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for upgrades, or maybe more. And this last one, yeah, you should be fine, but just confirm that there's some really interesting things going on there. You just got to be aware of. So they'll tell you. So for example, if it's going to cost me a few $100,000 or $1 million to upgrade all the deep infrastructure, that's one I'll just cross right off because I don't want to have to pass that issue along to my investors. So again, it's a mindset. But if we go through all of those steps, and again, it could take 30 days, it could take a little longer. We have now confirmed we've got the right economic market conditions. We understand the municipal vision, and we're going to achieve it. We've talked to the decision makers. They like us. They like our product, and they've told us where they want it. We've talked to the staff. We've told them who we are. We've generated that relationship. They've given us $1 million answers, and we understand that they have the capacity and capability to work collaboratively going forward. All right, Now we have the demographics, and we say to our commercial real estate broker, okay, here's an incredibly detailed buy box. We're looking for an end lot plus 2 or 3 lots for an assembly. We're looking at 15 to 35,000 square feet. We're looking for zoning that has, up to X level amenities in the 3 block vicinity of X, Y, Z. And they're like, oh, this is perfect. I know exactly what to do for you. And so now when you get 2 or 3 deals come across your desk in the next X number of days and weeks, and each one is a great decision you have to make because it's exactly what you want. Because you've seen how many times where you'll get 100 deals come across your desk and you're like, I don't have time to look at all these. And, I don't even know, I've never even heard of this place before. So again, you get focused, detailed understanding of everything you want to achieve exactly what your investor or project and all the other parameters you have to be successful.
Got
That's a
it.
long-winded way. Sorry, I'm done on that now.
Got it. I like that. It's almost like you would do the diligence up front. It's more like it's not for every single deal, but you would do this upfront diligence for one specific market. Then once you deem that market to be viable, then the rest is much easier because you've done a lot of that upfront work. It's all the same
Totally.
thing. Just find me products in here.
Yeah,
And to the brokers, they love it because if you ask better questions, you get better answers. Not find me a deal. What kind of deal?
How
There's a
long is
million and
how
one
long is the
questions.
length of a piece of rope? Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I'll just summarize it, Leo, with this is exactly what happened. So we went through that whole process. And because we knew the municipality liked us, they liked our product, when we went in for our application, because we're a bunch of Army guys, so we do things concurrently and instead of sequentially, we walked into them with a 50% drawing set. Most people, when they first make their application, walk in with the equivalent of a piece of paper and a sketch. We were like, no, we know you're going to say yes. Here's a 50% drawing set. Here's all the reports and studies. And we laid it down on the table, and the planning staff looked at us and said, what is this? Like, this is your initial application. And I said, yes, but we're ready to go. And so what normally would have taken a 2.5 year timeline for initial application through to building permit, which is about 2.5 years in this municipality, we got through in 9 months. And we would have actually been through in 7, but they couldn't get quorum in 2 of the city council meetings. So again, we'll say less than a year, but that's the difference great research can have on your product on your projects. And what does that create? Certainty for your investor returns, surety for your timelines. You can just move faster. You can work collaboratively, and that was just so. I just remember talking to the staff. They're like, every time you guys walk in here, you guys do exactly what you say you're going to do, and you give us more than what we've ever expected. So we got to a point where the staff was like excited to see us. They were like, and we've done all this work to support your file. And we're like, well, that's great. Again, great work inputted, to those that would appreciate it. They'll just give you great work back because again, we're not trying to blow smoke. There's no bullshit there. We told you what we're going to do. We did it. And then by extension, they started to reciprocate that quite well.
Love it. Yeah, it's almost like people, the way I see is this. A lot of people vastly underestimate the amount of work it takes to succeed. And they go in, they're very trigger happy. They just want to get a deal under contract and just begin work. But it's almost like you take the opposite approach. It's like you want to do half of the work before you even get to the starting line.
Well, and that's again, how do you set up for a great mission? You do all your drills, your SOPs, you know that. So when you actually just get to the mission, all you have to focus on is just those specific bits. So again, we have that really a different mindset, but it translates into time and reduction in opportunity costs.
So in development, obviously, it's one of those fields that has a lot of complexities. There's a lot of variables that you're dealing with. What's maybe one thing that was harder than you thought when you first went into it that maybe other people going into it wouldn't think? And second is what's the hardest part of development in general?
Uh, I guess so. In the military, it's pretty simple. There's a rank structure. So when your boss tells you something, yeah, right, and you're down the road doing it. Whereas the hardest thing for me was to generate those. And again, you always have that, the relationship. You know me, I know you. But the hardest thing for me was when I told you I was going to do something and I came back and did it. And most times they're like, oh, I didn't think you were going to do that. And you're like, what? But I told you I was going to do that. And so there's that. We always kept up our end of the bargain. We always kind of came up with the greatest degree of integrity and with everything we did. But some other people, some other organizations, good, bad, or otherwise, they just don't necessarily match your speed, your level of work. And I think that was the hardest part was, uh, we want to get things done really fast because we know we can do things really, really quickly. But, what we had to remember was you can only work at the speed of trust. No like trust. If you and I are working together for the very first time and I tell you, hey, Leo, I'm going to do this and I'm going to produce that and I'm going to have it here at this time, you're like, sure. You're just like the other 99 developers that just came in and promised me the world. So it took time to build trust to say, okay, when I tell you I'm going to do something and we do it, you'll actually believe me. So we don't have to do sequential. We can start to do concurrent. And I had to just temper my expectations first, but like all things, it's about relationship building. Uh, all things, it's like saying the sky is blue. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think we knew that, but you have to sometimes say it out loud to yourself to just remind you it's okay. It's not like they're trying to screw you over. It's just they just didn't believe you. They didn't trust you. So calm down, relax, because you can't be so authoritarian. You have to be much more collaborative. And I've always been that way, but it just reemphasized, you know, those relationships are critical.
Got it. And is there a way that you measure trust or that you build it, or is it just more like a feeling thing that you get over time?
Uh, yeah, that's no easy question to answer, but like all things, it's just built. There was a great book I read before I went to Afghanistan called Three Cups of Tea, and it's very much in that Afghan culture of the first time we sit down and chat with each other, I get to know your name, I get to know a little bit of who you are. The second time, I get to know about your family, and the third time, we know each other well enough that we can actually really get to business. So that's the key is to building trust over time is takes those it's consistency. That is it. When you show up, you're Leo. This is exactly who I am every time. My hair may not be done perfectly like yours is right now, but at the end of the day, you know, showing up, being genuine, being real, performing the way you say you're going to be performing, and achieving those outcomes. So that's it. I mean, it's there. If it was rocket science, there'd be a rocket strapped to my backside, but there isn't. So
Yeah, I love it. No, that's very well said, and I love the three cups analogy. I think um, definitely see that a lot, especially in America, where just the culture is more transactional. People will just reach out to you and they'll pitch their idea at the first go, and you're like, I don't even know who you are. We haven't built that yet. So I think to what you said, to take a step back, have at least a few touch points, get to know who they are a little bit. I think that's tremendously important. I mean, for you, you're working with different partners almost in every deal. Maybe it's a different construction crew, maybe it's a different municipality. So like, how do you make sure that the team is right? Because if the team is not right, that's one additional variable as a developer that could go wrong. And
100%.
it's a game of risk mitigation for you.
100%. And that risk, there will always be risk. If I was a lawyer, I wouldn't be doing this because it's too much risk. Why not mitigate the risk? Well, if you mitigate the risk, you just wouldn't get up out of bed every morning. But to a certain degree, especially when we consider municipalities, we look at that almost like a marriage. So again, if you focus on the girl in the red dress, the pretty girl in the red dress, which is just, I found a piece of land that looks gorgeous. It's right on this, it's right on this end lot, and I'm gonna build a Taj Mahal there. And you go, no, you're not. And I could tell you that in 5 minutes just by looking at the land, looking at the deep infrastructure, which is another really important piece that a lot of developers don't look at. It's unsexy, but if you look only at what they're wearing or the top of the ground and look up, you're never going to see the big piece, which is all below the ground. Those are $1 million issues that often get overlooked. But think of it as a marriage. You will be involved in this municipality for as long as it takes to get through the regulatory process, for as long as it takes to go through and build that, and for as long as it takes to sell or occupy the building, depending if it's a for sale or a rental. So let's just assume that's 4 years, a year to get through, 2 years to build, and a year to occupy. Well, it's really like anything. If you're getting married, it's kind of awkward as you're walking down the aisle for the marriage to say, "Oh my God, my in-laws are going to be painful. I'm never going to be able to deal with this." So again, spend the time up front. It's like dating. Get to know them. You'll either say yes, or you'll and want another date, or you'll say no right away. And it's better to have a fast no than a slow yes. And that's what I would say.
Yeah, as Ray Dalio says, hire slow, fire fast. So I think it echoes the same sentiment.
Right.
So as far as your career, just going a little higher level, when you first transitioned into development, how did you learn the game? Did you partner with someone that's experienced, or did you have to just learn everything manually?
No, let's be clear, Leo. I'm smart enough to know in my military career, always surround yourself with people that are better than you or smarter than you. Because quite frankly, everyone says, I got to think outside the box. And I always say, no, I just got to find somebody that has a bigger box than mine and that they can show me how to expand mine. But my two partners are incredibly talented individuals. Again, they had left the military probably about 10 years before I had and been in the space, gained a lot of experience. So when I had the ability to join the team, I initially joined as the business development and worked very closely with both my partners now, just learning, how do you think about this? How do you look at land? How do you see it? Because again, when I was starting out, all I saw was the girl in the red dress. And they're like, we don't care about the girl in the red dress. We care about everyone around the girl in the red dress before we even look at her. Because if everyone around her isn't where we want them to be, we don't actually get to date the girl. Anyways, I'm using that metaphor, but you see my point is, and it was really eye-opening. So instead of, again, pressing your nose against the tree and just focusing here, it's that take a steps back, really look at the whole thing before you go. So again, to answer your question directly, I had a great group of people around me. And like anything, every day I'm learning something new and just loving it. We could sit here and chat the rest of the afternoon about this as you would be like, I'm loving this too. Let's do it. Let's put a deal
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're going, especially in business, right? It like when you're spending time with someone and building a business with them, you better make sure you like them because,
100%.
especially in a smaller business where the lines are kind of blurred. I mean, you can work a lot. You can go to different things and like, will you want to actually have a proverbial beer with that person, right? Then that question comes up more and more. So I think it is very helpful to have the right people by you. Now, so with that being said, just to round things out, who's maybe someone in your life or a career that shaped you? to who you are today, but maybe doesn't get enough credit?
Well, I said it right in the beginning. It was my dad. He just gave me that. Like he was a guy that worked. He was a middle level executive, worked 9 to 5, and then at 5:30 he would start building that house till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, till the sun went down. And then on the weekend he would show up. So again, I had some really great example. I would also include my mom in that. She was more sort of that longer term vision person, uh, but really that fire to build, the work ethic that's needed, and just the value sets that I hold today. So, um, and then I would credit both my partners right now with sort of the work that they're doing, because now I actually I'm at a point now where it's not to say I'm not learning from them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is I'm starting to see uh, others in the industry and really go, okay, what did those guys do? Because you can learn one thing everyone should take away from. I can't remember the quote. You failure is not something to avoid, something to cherish, because it's the equivalent of, if you make $150,000 error in property development, it's like going to Harvard for 3 years and getting an MBA, or 4 years, or whatever it takes. Apologize. But, put those on the wall. Those are the school of hard knocks. So as long as it doesn't destroy you, learn from it. But in that effort of learning from failure, look at everyone else around you, because you can gain so much. Alex Hormozi talks about learning from others as sort of the fast track to, gain 10 years in industry knowledge just by watching what others have done wrong and then promising yourself you'll never do that.
Right. Right. So who's maybe one person that maybe in the public eye that you can read about or that you can learn from that you think would be helpful to other people maybe aspiring to get into the development space?
Development specifically, uh,
Or that's helpful to you?
uh, and maybe I won't say it from the perspective of specifically for this industry. I would just talk about mindset and resiliency, and and that would be Alex Hormozi as well. Uh, because sometimes I actually, he doesn't say it directly, but I call it the crush. Sometimes, you wake up in the middle of the night and you've got that, like, oh my God, this has to happen. We're waiting on this. We're waiting on that. We're creating all these carrying costs over here, and you're like, oh God, this is. And then you have to just remind yourself that, what is my vision? There's a couple extra $1,000 that are going to get tacked on here, but that's okay, because it's just added a little time, but we still have a contingency plan to deal with all of this. We have a contingency fund to deal with all this. So again, staying calm in the face of adversity is so critically important, not only for your own mental health and well-being, but that of your team. How many times have you seen somebody at the first sign of, like, they're just, and you're like, holy Nikes, what's going on over there? But if they're the ones in charge, what does that do to everyone else's mental state in the team? So where that really helps us is just our attitude, because adversity is something you'll experience as property developers, even as real estate investors. When something goes wrong, you have to have thought through how to deal with that. And it could be as simple as, if some real estate investors that buy a single family home and the renter destroyed the toilet. Well, how do we deal with that? Well, somebody phone a plumber. Does the water been turned off? Right up to, we're building a $20 million medium density multifamily 6-story building, and the construction manager just walked off the site. Those are problem sets. They're just different in size, but again, they're problems. And how do we solve them? Take 2 minutes, go behind a wall and maybe cry a little bit, maybe, scream at the top of your lungs, and then just take a deep breath, maybe 5, maybe 7, come around back and say, okay, this is how we're going to solve this problem.
That's what a leader does. I love it. So, Chris, I appreciate all your wisdom so far today. It's definitely been very interesting to just dig into your mindset a little bit and find out how it really impacts how you show up as a leader and what you do as well. So, how can people connect with you or learn more about what you're building?
Sure. They can reach us at www.tladev.ca. And just in the contact us, we have newsletters, we have a whole bunch of product. Just put in your name, your email, and we'd love to reach out and tell you what we're doing, help you in your journey. And if you're interested in opportunities that we have, that would be tremendous for any of your community. Now,
That's
the
what.
other thing too is because I think most of your community is south of the border for us in the U.S. Your dollar goes a long way up here in Canada. So,
Yeah, yeah. And to round out the podcast, any final thoughts that you wish to share? Maybe we didn't speak about that you wanted to get out there.
it just summarizes: do your research, prepare yourself, and it will save you so much time, so much money, so much frustration. Spend that time to not only research for yourself, but where you want to invest. And I wish everybody all the best in their investment journey because like I said, we could be chatting here for the rest of the afternoon, but we'd need a lot more coffee and or maybe transition to a beer or something harder from there. But all good, all good.
Very well said. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Chris.
It's my pleasure, Leo.